Hello and welcome to an On the Other Hoof special ahead of the flat season that starts this Saturday at Doncaster with the Lincoln meeting. We're going to be taking you through our best horses to follow for the flat season. You can also get in touch with us at On the Other Hoof on Twitter and pretty much put your ideas against ours because we probably have less of an idea than you guys. I'm joined tonight by Adam Webb and Callum Adele. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Evening.
Well done, Callum. That's a good start, mate.
Great start, wasn't it?
Ask you a question, you take a drink.
Not the first
Onwards and upwards.
So.
As mentioned, you can join in the chat at On The Other Hoof on Twitter. You can send in any horses that you're going to be following closely across this flat season. We've broken it down into categories, personally, into 3-year-old Colts, 3-year-old Fillies, older horses, and handicappers. Older horses can be anything older than a 3-year-old, from a sprinter up to a stayer, which I think we've mostly got sprinters in our older horses.
Middle distance as well.
Middle distance, yeah.
I say that, and I look down at my 3, and none of them are sprinters.
Oh, well done.
Then again, I did forget quite a few of them. But we're going to start off with the 3-year-old Colts. Who wants to go first and get the ball? Callum, you've been waiting for this moment all jump season, so
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Go on, Cal.
Am I allowed to go first then, yeah? Yeah, it's a 3-year-old Colt, so it's not... I haven't got really strong convictions about the 3-year-old Colts, particularly when it comes to the Derby. I think, obviously, that Ballydoyle are mob-handed in that respect, but it's hard to really gauge which one's the best until the trials. I mean, I know you're going to put John F. Kennedy up, Luke, so I'll leave it to him, but he's probably the best, or the best looking one so far. So the Guineas is more my area I want to concentrate on. Big fan of Fadan. Obviously only seen once last season, had a couple of problems after his extremely impressive Haydock win, which form has been considerably boosted by the second Dutch connection, very much proven himself as a proper group performer. And he absolutely bolted up that day. John Gosden, the vibes from the yard are very, very strong about the horse as well. I mean, Gosden has made no... he's very much come out and said this horse is a bit of a freak. I think that's very significant for a guy that never really talks his horses up. So I'm very much on his side for the Guineas. I think he'll turn up in something like the Greenham and end up potentially being this year's Kingman. He's very similar in that respect.
I think the words that John Gosden used were exceptionally brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't say that about Kingman.
No,
he never says that about horses.
I've never really heard him talk up anything he's got, really.
No.
Like he's been positive, but to use the words like exceptionally brilliant from a man like John Gosden, you really have to respect that, don't you?
Yeah, I get the feeling the horse is a bit fragile, but very good. And yeah, so you want to very much keep on side towards the Guineas. That's sure to be a short, the main aim probably, but short term. And the other one, I'm a big fan of Cody Bear for Clive Cox. He's a horse that he only ran about 4 times last year. He ran a big race in the Coventry when he was only beaten about 3 or 4 lengths into 6th, and was a little bit unlucky that day after losing out on a run at a crucial point. Since then, he won a listed race that worked out quite well at Ascot again, and they've run a really good race in the Dewhurst behind Bilardo. It was no match of Bilardo that day, but a slowly run race like that where he had to lead the whole way, I don't think really suits him, and a strongly run mile on better ground as a 3-year-old, I think he'll improve out of sight. So he's one I think has been massively overlooked in the market, around 33 to 1 at the moment. He's a horse I think he's very much up to Group 1 standard, to be honest. He might not be exceptional, but he's very much not shown his hand yet. So he's one that I'm really, really keen on this season. I'm very excited for him. So they're the 2 for me.
Yeah, well, you've backed Cody Bear, haven't you, for the Guineas?
I've backed both of the Guineas, yeah.
Well, that's your sort of topping up one, isn't it?
Yeah, throughout the winter.
He's my little piece.
Yeah.
Adam, do you want to go next?
Yeah, go on then. I agree with Callum on Fadan. He was just so impressive at Haydock. You can kind of make similarities to Kingman as well. Kingman was fragile himself, and Fadan, with these comments from John Gosden, it's not him, as you 2 have alluded to. And I see him, as Callum has said, he'll probably go to the Green, and he'll meet some interesting rivals there, but I expect him to win that then go to the Guineas, and I expect him to win there. And you can see him in all the big mile races after that. Maybe even the Irish Guineas, St James's Palace, maybe even the Sussex Stakes as you go along through the season, ending on Champions Day, hopefully. These ones to be really, really excited about. Another one at a mile at this stage is one for the French 2000 Guineas I'm keen on. He's called Territories. Now, we last saw him at Longchamp on Arc Day, and he got basically taken out by Full Mast in the final furlong. Glen Eagles was disqualified anyway because he interfered first with Full Mast, but then Full Mast himself, not because of Glen Eagles, interfered with Territories himself. So theoretically, Territories should have got the race, but French rules for you. I thought Glen Eagles in this country would have held on. I think his performance can be marked up on that occasion, and trained by Andre Fabre, I really think he could be one for the French Guineas. I'm trying to think of the French trial for him. It probably needed a prep run somewhere, but I could see him going well in the French Guineas. Would he get maybe going up in trip? A mile and a quarter could be his trip, and he could be one for the Prix de Jockey Club as well. So my first two three-year-olds, I'll give you two others in a minute, are Feydan and Territories.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Feydan. I think all three of us are pretty keen on Feydan's chances. Mostly, the thing that brought our attention to it is John Gosden being so outwardly spoken about what he thinks of Feydan's abilities. I've got three-year-old colts to go with. One of them is one that I potentially think is a superstar, and the other two are horses that I can see coming through the ranks that I've sort of had on my radar for quite a while. I'll start with the superstar, that is John F. Kennedy, who I think is this season's Derby winner. Who, you remember on debut, the vibes coming out of the yard were very, very strong about him, and he got beaten 2.5 lengths by Hall of Fame, which at the time didn't look great, but then he came out and absolutely decimated a field at the Curragh. Looked a completely different animal, and you thought, okay, right, maybe this actually is a fairly good horse. And last time out he won Group 3 at Leopardstown. That was over a mile, but he just looks a horse that's improving all the time. And I think it was in a Racing Post interview the other day, Joseph O'Brien put John F. Kennedy up as their best Derby horse. I mean, there's been a substantial gamble for Glen Eagles this week in the Guineas, but as me and Callum have spoke about, it could just be that Glen Eagles is their best horse equipped for a Guineas. I don't really think they've got an out-and-out star over that kind of trip for this season. But John F. Kennedy, I do think, could potentially take a lot of beating in the Derby. It'll be interesting to see where they start him off. Obviously, Ballydoyle have a brilliant record in the Derby lately. The second one I'm siding with is a horse that's now, it was with Richard Hannon last year, I believe it's now with Alan McCabe, called Flyball, who was a Midland Park horse, has now been sold on. But I got told about this horse at the start of the season last year, and they started off in the Brocklesby. Now, usually Brocklesby horses tend to get further in time, but they tend to be a lot more forward in their career as a 2-year-old. And he came third in the Brocklesby before winning a race at Leicester, which he scraped home in. But he's been campaigned over 5 furlongs and 6 furlongs. He showed he's got plenty of ability in that regard, but he desperately needs to go up to about 7 furlongs, maybe even a mile. So this is a hope that Alan McCabe will see that he does need a bit further. He's off a mark of 78 as we speak. So if they take advantage of that, then Flyball could be a very, very well handicapped horse. The only worry that I've heard from it is that they have said that they may try him at Southall on the all-weather, which I can't really see him being a horse to suit that. But all of his breeding points towards him being a miler. Everything he's done on the racecourse, to me, points towards him being more of a miler. But he's contested some decent races. He was 22nd at Royal Ascot behind Hootenanny. And then he ran a fair race. He was 14th of 19 at Newbury behind Tiggy Wiggy in the Super Sprint. But I think, Callum, you backed Flyball that day, didn't you? At a bigger price.
Yeah, he was a silly price. I had $250 away on him, I think.
Didn't he play up that day before going in the stalls? I seem to remember it.
Yeah, that's rings a bell. Actually, I can't remember.
Sure, he played up.
I think it was something else in the race that got pulled out.
Oh yeah, I thought he played up. It was just
Hamden horse that got pulled out, and I think I backed it.
Oh, that Super Sprint! Oh, I hated that race. Tiggy Wiggy would get outpaced, and what did Richard Hughes do? Oh, he sent her to the front, and she never saw another rival.
Yeah, outpaced the rounds. But yeah, that's Flyball. In the Super Sprint, he travelled well for a long way, and he was on the bridle for quite a long way, and he was sort of catching the eye a bit and then got outpaced when it's probably better horses quicker in fairness. But off a mark of 78, he could do some damage in handicaps. And the last one to mention is a horse of Roger Charlton's called Acolyte, who is with Highclere, but never really took off last season. He promised to be a good horse on debut when third to Elm Park. That was on softer ground, and he travelled up well again that day. About a furlong and a half out, he came under a bit of pressure, and he didn't really quicken in the ground. He won comprehensively at Kempton in a maiden, beating a subsequent winner back in second, and went to York on softer ground, which is less than ideal. Got beat quite a long way, really. Me and Adam were both very, very keen on him that day, and he never really showed much, in truth. He's gone down.
He was keen that day. He missed the break, he was keen, and then on that soft ground, I don't think he could get his feet out of it. I was going to put him up to follow in the handicapper section later on, because I think off that mark of 78, he's a good thing in several handicaps.
He's off a mark of 76 now.
76? He's been dropped to. Wow. Yeah. Watch out for him in handicaps. Yeah.
That's what I saw anyway. But a mark of 76 on faster ground, he'll make very light work.
Weather. He could win races at Kempton because he handled the all-weather surface there fine. So very interesting.
I don't think it's particularly turf that he's against. I just think that he does need faster ground. The only two times he's run on turf, it's been soft at Newbury, and soft at York, and he hated it both times.
And he was third to Elm Park as well. So
exactly. And as mentioned, the horse that was second in the maiden that he did win at Kempton has gone on and won since, albeit not a strong race, but there's some substance. See that form. That is 3-year-old Colts for the season.
I've got two more.
You've got two more of you?
Yeah, I said I'd do two, and then these are more stayers.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to give you Elm Park, because I really, really like him, and I think he's St Ledger winner. I know this is really early to say this, but the manner in which he won the Racing Post Trophy and his other races over a mile, he just looks a real stayer. I do have doubts about him for the Guineas and the Derby. It'll be interesting to see how he handles the track in the Guineas again, because I didn't really think he handled Newmarket last year. It'll be interesting to see how he comes out of the dip. If he handles that, then I'd have more confidence with him going to Epsom. But if he doesn't handle the dip, then he'd have no chance around Epsom, which is where I'd think that he could go for other races, like maybe the Prix de Jockey Club, maybe the Grand Prix de Paris at Longchamp. I think Longchamp would be a track that would really suit him well. And that would be obviously before a go at the St Ledger. He's a really likeable type, and he's a real strong stayer as well. So I could see him, if Epsom isn't for him, I could see a Grand Prix de Paris campaign with the St Ledger. Then both races suit him really well.
I was going to say, doesn't he remind you a lot of Kingston Hill last year?
In a bit of a way, yeah. I see that. Yeah.
Obviously, last year's Racing Post Trophy winner, he won it the year before. Yeah, he does remind me of him.
Oh, big time, big
time. Does, yeah. I put Kingston Hill up in this video last year as well. My other one, I don't know what to expect of him, but he's a really nice horse. He's called White Lake, and I actually gave him a mention on this video before he ran in his maiden, because I looked at his profile and I thought he'd be a very interesting horse. And trainer Luca Kamani very rarely wins a maiden, so he goes and absolutely bolts in at 25 to 1 before running in I think it's the Champagne Stakes at Doncaster, where 7 furlongs looked too short for him that day, and he faded tamely to finish 4th. I just think that he is an interesting horse. I don't know what route they're going to go with him. He's definitely not a handicapper. He's better than that. But he could be a type that could go to the Craven potentially and do something like postpone this season before going for a 4-year-old campaign. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him. But he's one I want to keep on side. Definitely.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him potentially in one of the sales races.
That's a good point.
He's entered in both. I was a little bit disappointed with that run at Doncaster because
I was
such a big impression on debut, and then he he didn't really improve, and it wasn't the best race because it was only a listed race. So
I just thought it was a quick run back. So I don't know.
My one worry with White Lake is that he's a big unit of a horse. It could just be that he needs a bit of time, and maybe better next season, even when he's got another year on his back as a 4-year-old. He'll definitely be a horse I imagine that we'll see coming back again and again, but he's a horse that possesses bags of ability. He's an exciting type.
That's what Luca Kamani is, though. He brings them on so well. I mean,
he's
slow. It's not like he's going to rush a 3-year-old. So,
as a link. Another Luca Kamani horse that I quite like, who's trained or owned by the same guys, Bartholomew Fair, the horse that really caught my eye when he won at Yarmouth. He won a maiden at Yarmouth really convincingly, and then was well beaten behind Commemorative in the Autumn Stakes at Newmarket. But he was desperately green. He didn't handle the dip, and I think he came back injured anyway. So I think he's off a mark around 1999, I think he is. So he's not really one for handicaps potentially, but he's a horse I can see stepping up to 10, 12 furlongs and really progressing, similar to what something like Postpone did last year for Kumani. He's the kind of horse I can see at Newmarket at the Guineas meeting and then potentially stepping up and trip further. So he's one I like in that respect.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. Right, 3-year-old fillies. Should we go there?
Yeah, I've had a couple more that I was going to ask at the end, but mainly Limato, who we haven't really mentioned.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one we're all going to touch on a bit later.
Yeah. And
part of the On the Other Hoof horses.
A couple more. Sorry.
It's okay.
Wait. You couldn't have Limato anyway because it was 3-year-old Colts.
Yeah.
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Is Flyball hang on, is Flyball a 3-year-old colt?
Yeah.
He was last time I checked.
Okay.
A couple more. I like both from the Roger Charlton yard actually. 3-year-olds. Wheat Sheaf is a horse I put up in my horses to follow. Could not have caught the eye more on his debut. Travelled like an absolute good thing. Just kind of was lacking a bit of inexperience at the end. Got beat by a horse that had already had the benefit of a run, but he's one for really concentrate on next year. And Golden Horn, he made a very impressive debut for Charlton. He's another to put in your tracker. So there are two more for me, but we'll move on now.
Yeah, I imagine you're going to have a few more than me and Adam throughout this.
Yeah.
You should see this guy's tracker. He has so many horses in that thing.
It got cut down big time the last couple of weeks, but it's still ridiculously big. So yeah.
It's the amount of times you've gone. Yeah, no, I've got 19 horses running today in my tracker on a Saturday.
19. I had 45 once.
My lord, how many of them won?
I'm sitting here. I've got one. I don't really fancy it, but I've got one. For me, and I know for Adam as well, 3-year-old fillies was a bit harder to sort of really nail our colours to 1 or 2. I found one really that I quite like. Adam, I'll let you go first, however, because I imagine Callum's got about 70.
No, I got 2.
Yeah, I've got 2 actually. I said I had I've got 3. Sorry, I've got 2 that are trained by John Gosden and one that's in America. A weird one to put in from America, but I'll mention her first. It's Lady Eli, and the reason I like her so much is because she hates dirt, and the way she won the Fillies Juvenile on turf was just so impressive. And I could see her in America. I probably won't back her, but I just think she's one to really watch over there. She'll be one for really good. She'll be one that will be winning Group 1s in America, and I could see her easily turning up in the Breeders' Cup Fillies and Mares. And I've actually got one that I'll probably put in for that later on in the video. The 2 John Gosden horses I've got Tendu on my list, and I was really impressed with her on her second start at Kempton, where we made the point that she was impressive. She broke the track record, didn't she, on that day?
Yeah, she did, yeah.
Yeah. And then she was not disgraced at all behind Tiggy Wiggy in a Cheveley Park, and it tells you that something when John Gosden's put in a filly of her, he could have waited with her, but it shows how much belief he's got in the horse if she's entering her in that first time out. Interestingly, she doesn't have 1,000 guineas entry. That's something that's interesting. She's probably one for sprints and could be one for the 3-year-old sprint at Ascot on the Commonwealth Cup, where she'd probably end up facing the likes of Tiggy Wiggy and Limato. But I think she will hold her own in her own sex races, which there's very few to come by. But I think she'll be an interesting horse to follow. The other one that I think may want a bit more of a trip, not to say too much of a trip, probably about 10 furlongs at most, is Lady Correspondent, who won a Newmarket maiden very readily. And she's got a Guineas entry, and I could easily see her turning up in something like the Fred Darling to start off. She will definitely need to go up in tripping time, but she could easily be one that could make into a Guineas contender. I was going to put Cursory Glance up, but she's not going to be running in the Guineas. She'll probably come out and do well for herself later on in the year, but it's a shame that she's not going to the Guineas because she was really impressive last season.
With me, I'm not sure why with Cursory Glance. I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing that she's not going to the Guineas. I never really had her down as a horse I wanted to go to the Guineas. I don't know why. I know Callum scoffed at that when I told him a while ago, but I just have her down as more of a stayer than a Guineas horse.
Don't see her as a 1.5 mile horse, though. That's the thing. I don't see her.
No, she's an Albany winner. How many Albany winners?
I know that. Yeah, I know that.
She's got a lot of pace.
I'm not denying that, but I think she'll come into her own when she gets more of a trip.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see where she does go now with that setback. But
saying that as well, I think she's too big of a horse to handle Epsom if she were to go for the Oaks, which I don't really think.
I think she will. I mean, yeah, there is a bit of stamina. That's why I was so surprised that she did win the Albany, because there is quite a bit of stamina in her pedigree. I mean, her dam was a 10 furlong winner and sister to a 12 furlong winner, and so yeah, there's stamina there.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Right, is that you done, Adam?
Yeah, that's me done.
Okay, I'm going to give my two now. The first one is a horse that we haven't seen. We've seen once, but that we haven't seen her since last April, I think it was, when she bolted up in a maiden at Carlisle. I don't actually know the reason why we haven't seen her. It's David Barron horse. Harry Bentley rode that day, but it's Qatar Racing. The horse she beat that day at Carlisle was Matmu. Matmu's gone on to be a very good horse in his own right, but likely dismissed of him by 5 lengths and was eased down at the end. So it's got a lot of ability. The one thing I don't like about Likely this year is that they're trying to make her into a 1,000 Guineas horse. Now, this is a horse that's got a lot of speed, both in her pedigree and what she showed at Carlisle on debut. So whether she'd be enough of a stayer to win the Guineas at this point, I think I can see her being the kind of horse like I think Betimes last year and Lucky Crystal, where they try a mile and drop back in trip to sort of sprinting trips. I say the new 3-year-old sprint race that Tiggy Wiggy's being kept up for. I can imagine that suiting Likely, to be honest, throughout the season. It's just a matter of if she did have an injury last year, then if she can come back from that and show the promise and build on the promise that she showed last season at Carlisle on debut. The second one I want to put up also has trip worries for me, is Anthem Alexander, who I think needs to go down to the basement trip of 5 furlongs. Has been running at 6 furlongs against Tiggy Wiggy and won at Royal Ascot last year when beating Tiggy Wiggy over 5. Travelled so strongly into the race that time, but since going up in trip hasn't been able to use that against Tiggy Wiggy, who has taken on different tactics in fairness to her since that. But she's got such a high cruising speed. I was standing watching the race with Callum, and I think I was on the American horse, whatever one it was that came over. Callum was on Alexander. I was happy with how I was going. And then Callum goes, no, look at mine. And then you got this Pat Smullen, just got his arse in his air. And like, right, well, that's over. Okay.
Love that performance.
Yeah, that was very impressive to me. A lot of people were saying about Tiggy Wiggy going for the Nunthorpe last year. I actually really wanted Anthem Alexander to go for the Nunthorpe as well. I think she's got more than enough speed for that. Faster ground is no problem for her whatsoever. I just think she's got such a high cruising speed. In those kind of in big sprints, she could really make her presence felt. But if they're going to keep trying her at 6 furlongs, maybe even go further up in trip, then she might just be caught out by that. Even a step as minute as going down a furlong in trip, I think we'll see some much better effect. But she's in the right hands to do so for a sprinter than Eddie Lynham's yard, who of course had Soul Power and Slade Power last year. So hopefully Anthem Alexander can make him to a nice sprinter this season. I'm pretty sure Anthem Alexander will be one that you like, Callum, actually.
Yeah, my worry is that 6 furlong race at Ascot, she's going to go for that clearly. When I would much rather see her at 5 furlongs in a King's Stand. But look, I think she's a very smart filly and she's in perfect hands. So she's maybe not one to follow very much this season, but in the next few years, I think she could be very, very good. So yeah, I like her. Yeah.
Right, your 2 to follow, Callum.
Well, actually, Adam's 2. Both are in my tracker. Lady Correspondent, I really liked her debut. I'm actually going for another Gosden filly in Jellicle Ball, who was a very, very taking winner on her debut at Kempton. She put up one of the fastest 3 furlong split recorded at Kempton, which is a tip in its own right. I actually backed her for the Guineas on the back of that. Then forgot, had a look at her pedigree and went, she's going to want the Oaks trip. I've had on good word that she's training very well, and that the Oaks is the aim. I expected I can see her potentially going for the Guineas, like the Fugue did for the same connections, and then going on to the Oaks. But she's one I'm keeping well on side. The other one I'm going to put up, an interesting one. I think you quite like this horse, Luke. Is Malabar for Mick Shannon. Just didn't see the best of her last season. Again, she was a horse that really impressed me at Ascot, and then followed her throughout the season. I was very taken by her performance at Goodwood, where she won as she liked, and she's given way too much to do by Richard Hughes at Longchamp. That was an understatement. I mean, it was the second worst ride of the day behind Yuga Kawada and Heartstar, but yeah, it was a shocker. She's very much bred again for 10 furlongs, so but I expected to run in the Guineas and run a decent race. I can see her winning or running well in something like the Irish Guineas, because I think the same connections won with Samitar a few years ago. So yeah, they're the two for me for the Fillies, but no strong convictions. But I think it's quite a good bunch this year, so I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah, didn't Malabar break the course record at Ascot?
Yeah,
she won there.
Yeah, I think so. Just before the rain came, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He won a watch, didn't he? William Twiston Davis and the connection.
Yeah.
They all got watch, didn't they? Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Longines, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That ride. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of that ride Richard Hughes gave Malabar.
Yeah.
So.
Just reminded me. Yeah, you reminded us all. Cheers, Callum. Thanks for that.
Sorry. Cheers, Callum.
Anyway.
Feel my pain now.
Right, that's 3-year-olds done. We're going to move on to the older horses to follow now. Well, I imagine we've got a few sort of contrasting opinions in this. I know you guys do, with one especially, being Free Eagle. Who's going to take Free Eagle?
I like Callum.
No, you take it, because I'm talking about every other horse, so you take this one.
Since when have you guys been goodbye?
Thank you.
Well, no, I feel bad about taking all the horses, so I've got 4 others in the middle distance category alone. So.
All right then. Free Eagle. I put him up on this video last year, and it didn't go to plan. I had him down as a Derby horse, and he missed the whole first half of the campaign with a setback, and he was brought alongside by Dermot Weld and came out on Irish Champions Day. He probably could have won the Irish Champions Stakes. The way he won the Group 3, he was just so impressive. And his run on Champions Day behind Noble Mission in the Champions Stakes, there was no disgrace from that. The ground was plenty soft enough, yet how close he was to Noble Mission and Al Kazim, it was a really commendable effort. I just think as a 4-year-old he's just going to blossom, and I know Callum mentioned in his piece that the Tassels Gold Cup would be a good starting point, and then before the video I was listing all these various races and Luke told me to shut up. So, so the races like the Prince of Wales, the King George, maybe even the Jubmont, the Irish Champion and the Arc. They're Champion Stakes on Champions Day if the ground was decent this year. He will win a handful of Group 1s, I think, this year. I'm really looking forward to seeing Free Eagle.
Yeah, he left a pretty good, a very good impression at the back end of last season after being. Giving himself big boots to fill, but hopefully he can stay sound for the whole season. That's the main thing with him, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Go on, Adam. Another horse to follow.
Another older horse to follow. Right, I'm going to give you the Corsican, who he's got a mark of 101, so he could easily. I think he's listed Group Class, but he could easily be kept for an early season handicap over 10 or 12 furlongs. I think 10 furlongs would be more his strip. Something like, what's the handicap called? The Royal Ascot handicap over 10 furlongs would be a race I think that could potentially suit him if they keep him for that. But if not, I could see him being a listed and group performer. He won a handicap beating Monjol, who goes to Lincoln on Saturday, and he was really impressive on that occasion. And the time before at Goodwood, it was the first he really caught my attention. He was really impressive on that card as well, where I think we had first flight in behind that day. He was a horse that I know we've all liked in the past. I could see him really improving to being listed and group performer. Not sure where the ceiling is with this horse yet, but if they saved him for a handicap earlier in the season, even off that mark, I wouldn't be put off.
No, it's fair enough. Go on, Callum. We'll let you go for one now.
Couple of sprinters I like. Muthmere is an obvious one. Yeah, I mean, the horses don't win handicaps like Muthmere did, winning the Portland without being a very, very good horse. I think he could be extremely good. I don't know quite how good, but he could go for a handicap of a mark of 108. I was speaking to someone about that. Potentially could go for a handicap of 108. Be interesting to see him in one, but mainly I think he's an Ascot. He's an Ascot horse, or anything for the main sprints. And sticking with William Haggis, actually, another sprint of his that I like is a horse called Telmaid, a horse that I liked most of last season, but I was very impressed by his win at Ascot on his latest start. I thought it was very good form. There's a horse in behind as well that I'm going to mention in the Handicappers. I think it's just very, very good form, to be honest. Yeah, he's one for next season that I think can progress into a group horse. He's rated 105 at this stage, but I think he's very much a group horse. He's by your favourite sire, Dutch Art, as well. So,
what a sire! What a sire! It's not the last mention you'll get on this show either. Right, I'll chip in with my first one now. King's Fate is one that I think we all really strongly fancied in the St. Ledger last year, didn't we?
Oh, dearie me. Oh, dear.
The way... he's... The thing you have to note about King's Fate is that he's an absolute lunatic. He pulls his head off in races, and he doesn't really settle. At the back end of the season, they were beginning to get on top of that. It's Sir Michael Stout's horse, so he is slowly but surely just getting on top of King's Fate and just helping him settle into the race, giving him every chance. He ran in the St. Ledger, and we all thought he had a fantastic chance. He came into the race, ridden by Ryan Moore, about two and a half furlongs out, we'll say, absolutely cruising, and you thought he was going to get really competitive, and that 2 furlongs out, he just stopped dead. He just clearly didn't stay the mile 6 of the St. Ledger. So this year, I hope he'll be dropped back to a mile and a half, maybe even a mile 2. If he still shows them keen tendencies, a mile 2 might just play into his hands. He's a horse that... I don't know whether unlucky is the right word to use.
Well, they tried the hood on him at Goodwood, and the hood did work. Unfortunately, James Doyle dropped him 20 lengths out the back of the field, and I just remember your face after that race. You came out with... Did he win? No. Oh, God. And, James Doyle gave him too much to do. Who beat him? Double Bluff. And we both back the previous weekend at Ascot when he was second to Palisator.
I'm not going to start this argument again. Why that wasn't... He was just... he was riding to orders.
I can understand
I do agree
that.
with
Yeah. At the time,
it was an educational ride.
Yes, I did do that.
But he went back to Goodwood again for pretty much a St. Ledger trial when he came behind Forever Now. Again, he didn't really settle that day, but the only time he has settled really is in the St. Ledger. He was a little bit headstrong, but nowhere near what he was before. Yeah. He just has a tendency to get himself a little bit worked up before races. I've got 2 more to mention. I'm going to mention one, then we're going to cut away to one of you guys mentioning another one. Hey, Callum, do you want to put your head in your hands, mate?
For Christ's sake. The first horse to make the list for the 2nd year running, that is grim.
It's the 2nd ever flat preview we've done. So.
I know. Maybe I'll just call the preview after him, for crying out loud.
I'm going to go for the 2013 Irish champion sprinter.
What does that tell you about the sprinting division in Ireland if Dutch Masterpiece is winning it?
It's ruined the horse now.
I know, that was a big reveal. Dutch Masterpiece won that title after 1 run in Ireland that season. And he won in good style in quite a strong race. He then went on to the Abbey, and I think he went off favourite for the Abbey by his first time. He came 17th out of 20, which he didn't run to his best, but
Yeah, good.
he was better than 17th out of 20. Ryan Moore was pretty much easing him up from about half a furlong, three-quarters of a furlong out. He could have been midfield, but then it all went wrong in his first run last season at Newbury. It was a strong race, a strong sprint. Don't get me wrong, but he finished last, beaten 10 lengths. Now he came back and he was lame from that run, which isn't ideal. But then he also had a few underlying issues that kept him out for the whole season. They were hoping to bring him back, I think, at the end of the season, but in the end, it was a complete write-off. And he's coming back this season. I've been well informed that he's working well enough at home and he's in good enough heart. I think he's off a mark of 110 for the season. That hasn't been changed at all through his absence. Now, that would make handicap life very difficult for him. So he's going to go one or two ways. He'll still retain the ability that he showed before and maybe make up. He likely, after the injury, won't be a top class sprinter. In fairness, he probably wasn't going to be anyway, but don't tell Callum and Adam that, because they'll be all over me on that.
You're making a great case for how well placed this horse is off a mark of 110. Oh, he's handicap out of everything, but he's not good enough for group sprints, basically.
No. He's either going to go. He'll be a good sprinter. I'm just saying he might not be. In my mind, he might struggle to make Nunthorpe class. We won't know until we see him.
You think?
I don't know what you're laughing about, Adam.
Do you know what I remember? I remember in our first ever week of videos, you said, after the Nunthorpe, you said, Dutch Masterpiece will win the 2014 Nunthorpe. How did it get on? Yeah, good.
He will.
Yeah.
He was injured.
I think you napped him in the video before he ran, and he won it. That's when he won at the Curragh. I was like, you're like, he's going to win at the Curragh, and he's going to win the Nunthorpe next year. And me and Callum sort of looked at you and thought, oh god. Yeah. That's video. Yeah, I remember that.
He went our favourite for the Abbey. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he did.
I can see him actually being aimed more towards the sort of the top 6 furlong races more than the 5 furlong race. I don't think he's got the out-and-out speed for 5 furlong races on faster ground, because he does need a little bit of give in the ground. But
Sprint Cup at Haydock?
Yeah, something like that. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe even a July Cup. If the ground has got good to soft, maybe even a bit softer in the title. The year Mason won it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely loved it that year. He'd have bolted up as a yearling. But if Dutch Masterpiece can refine the form before his injury, I do think that he'll be a very, very good horse to follow this season. It's more at this stage hoping that he can refine that form. We'll learn a lot more about him whenever he makes his reappearance, and hope that he stays sound throughout the season, which we've already said about Free Eagle in this video. Enough about him. Adam, have you got any other older horses to throw into the mix?
Yes, I do. I have 2 more. One of them is a sprinter, and we loved her last season, Mecca's Angel. She started off the season, I remember her win at Hamilton, and she was so impressive. And then she missed a fair bit of the season. She came back at Doncaster and won a listed contest there very impressively. And she turned that very quickly 10 days later at Newbury, and again was really impressive. She's just a speedball, and she needs cut in the ground, but when she gets cut in the ground, I can see her making her mark in top sprints, 5 or 6 furlongs, and probably the Abbey is the long-term goal. But there are many races, I think, on soft ground. She may even go to France a couple of times, because that's where you'll get softer ground normally, and maybe even Ireland for some soft ground. But she's a really exciting filly to keep on side. That's Mecca's Angel.
I think Mecca's Angel, she'll probably fall on the maybe not as ground dependent, but sort of the same thing as Dutch Masterpiece. Will need softer ground and sort of sprinting trips as well. Saying that, didn't she perform quite well on goodish ground?
It was good soft. It was soft-sided good. That's what she needs, I'd say.
Yeah, she's a bit of cut, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I don't think she wants extreme ground.
I go with that.
No.
Yeah.
She's not overly big, is she? Size-wise.
Tiny.
No. But yeah, no, I agree with Mecca's Angel, and another On the Other Hoof horse as well, I think.
Woo.
From last year.
Yep.
Was that a woo from Adam?
Yep.
Yeah.
I love On the Other Hoof horses.
Good work, mate. Callum, you can go next.
Interesting one I've actually got here. A horse called Wanna Be Yours, run by John Gosden, remember?
Yeah.
racked up a few wins in, well, first a maiden and a handicap, and then he won a Group 3 at Goodwood. Really taken by that performance that day. It was very much backed up by the clock and by the form, because Horder Combat was second. Bow Creek very much franked with form in third. He wasn't right when he was beaten after an absence at Newmarket when he was last seen in September. He's a horse I'm very excited for this year. I think he could have grown into himself, and I think he really could go to the top. Bar that, I've got a few to be honest, but I'll probably keep it short. A couple that I think can make into group performers, or Group 1 performers at least. Since they're both actually, I think they've already both won at group level. Certainly one of them has. Cannock Chase, who I think haven't been seen since Royal Ascot, but he's one to really keep an eye on. And another horse that really improved at the end of last year was Here Comes When for Andrew Balding. Very much, I was seriously impressed by his win at Newmarket on his last start. Thought he looked at a Group 1 performer potentially. There could be more to come this year over a mile or 7 furlongs. So I think that the 7 furlong races are usually quite fairly weak. Like you can think of like the Park Stakes and the Lennox and things like that. He could be one for those sort of races, I think.
Wasn't it Here Comes When won in Germany?
Yes.
He won in Germany, and then he won the Challenge. Was it the Challenge Stakes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mentioned that he won in Germany as well.
Yeah. So I like him. And one more actually. I've just kind of lost his page now. I'm a big fan of Ed Walker. I think he's one of the most underrated trainers going. There's a lot of horses from his yard I like. I think is it Glorious Protector you like?
Adam? Yeah.
I'm going to go for Glorious Empire for the same connections. I assume the horse is still with them. He's just the kind of type that's gone to Australia, to be honest. But he was a big baby last year. He had some good form behind Monge All at Ascot. In a handicap that was really strong on paper at the start. He went and won at Newmarket the time after on soft ground. Won by a length, but could have won by about 5. He's a horse I think they may have just put away since. Very much a group performer if he's grown up and built into his frame. He's a big brute of a horse. So I like him. Glorious Empire.
Yeah, fair enough. One last horse that I've got. Have you got any more, Adam?
Got one more, and I think it's the same one as you, maybe.
We both.
Well, who's yours?
Mine is my main horse of the season.
No, it's a different one.
I've got. Yeah. Bragging we'll mention at the end of the video as part of the 3.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I've got no more then.
Eagle Top is a horse that I'm going to put up on my main horse of the season. I saw him run in the King George at Ascot when he was beaten not too far by Tragruda in a strong race. He was a 3-year-old at that point as well, so you need to keep that in mind. He looks, at that time, he looked very, very weak, as if there was a lot of growing left to do behind. I had a few pictures of him that day, and I couldn't believe, looking back on it, that he was contesting these kind of races and being competitive in them as well. He won the King Edward VII at Royal Ascot, and in nice style as well. Somehow before that he got beaten at Leicester. I'm not quite sure how he got beat by Fun Mac.
He wasn't right, was he? He had a problem, definitely. I can't remember what it was.
It's blood test. Blood test.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
The blood test was it.
Wrong. Yeah.
So that's his only bad run, really. Last time I was beaten 5 lengths by Tragruda. That was a fairly strong King George. I'm putting it down as the likes of, was it Mukadram and Telescope were the second and third, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were.
So that kind of form coming into it, with the amount of horses that were about the mile and a half division that have been retired this season. Australia won't be going forward for it. The Grey Gatsby maybe. Mukadram is now retired. Is Telescope going back? Do we know?
Yeah, he's
Yes,
back.
he is.
Back in training. Kingston Hill's in training. You may have Free Eagle in the race. Could be a crack of the King George. And you've got 3-year-olds. Could be.
Yeah.
Could is the word, but clincher even.
Good. Hopefully they will make it there. If they will make it there, it'll be a cracking race. Hopefully on good ground as well. But Eagle Top's a horse that I'd have planned out for the King George again. Possibly an arc towards the end of the season, but he'd have to prove himself for that. I know he was fancied for an arc last year actually by a few people, but didn't go. I think John Gosling's done well just to bide his time with Eagle Top and resist the temptation of running him too much last season. Hopefully he'll be a better horse this time around as a 4-year-old. Right, Handicappers is the only group, okay, we'll call it a group, that we haven't actually gone through yet. I've only got a couple of handicappers for this season that I like going forward. How many have you guys got?
Quite a few.
Callum's got every horse in training.
Yeah.
Go on, Callum. We'll knock off 3.
Yeah. Well, I've based them around categories of sprinters, middle distance, and then I've got 1 stayer. So if I mention my sprinters, which 2 of them can go on their own. Jamie Brownlow is sending a lot of Midland Park horses in, but he hasn't sent this one in, I don't think, which is Lexington Abbey, trained by Kevin Ryan, a horse that I think went up around £10 last year for some really consistent efforts behind some good horses, particularly behind Caffeine at York, a horse that's now gone to Hong Kong, and also when he's behind Telmaid Ascot, which is obviously a race I've mentioned already. He's a horse I really like this year. He's a horse that I just really thought, as a 4-year-old, he was going to come into his own, and he's the type I can really see actually winning something like an Air Gold Cup. He's going to have to go up in the weight a little bit, but I fully expect him to do so. He's actually entered on Sunday, so I'll be interested to see how he goes. But he is high up my list of horses to follow this year as a sprinter. I think he's got a lot of scope off that. He's already well handicapped for me with 89, but there's so much more to come. So I'm very excited for him. Bar that, there's a couple of David O'Mara horses to keep an eye on of similar ilk. Watchable and Highland Acclaim. Watchable has some very good handicap form last year. So does Highland Acclaim, to be fair. He was highly tried last year, Highland Acclaim, but just kept improving. They're just horses that are going to improve as 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, whatever they're going into. And another one, I think you're a fan of this horse, Luke. You might know it, Secret Hints, trained by Andrew Balding. Do you know Secret Hints?
God.
Yeah. we were at Goodwood. When Secret Hint ran and got a shocking ride by David Probert, who decided to stick on the rail when everything else went, well, virtually in the middle of the track, and very much cost her the race that day. It was a really bad ride, and then she went. I left her for a handicapper at Newmarket when she last ran. She was £4 out of the weight, so it was actually a really good race. I think Etna was in there. Remember, which was my ultimate cliff horse last year, and she won it, and she won really impressively. So she's one of the best handicap or better handicap horses going at the moment for me. I think she's off a mark around 89. I like her as well. So they're my sprinters to follow anyway. Those are my 4.
That ride. That was
such a bad ride. I had a really good bet on her that day as well. It was absolutely.
Wasn't you and Declan Ricks talking about her?
Yeah,
I think you
was
remember.
Declan, yeah.
I just remembered. Yeah, when you said the name, something clicked when you mentioned Sam said coffee discussed on the table. Remembering that, right? Oh,
I had a really good price on her as well, and she got absolutely smashed, and then
right, I've actually got 3 handicappers to follow that I forgot about 1. Adam, how many have you got?
A lot. I've got just as many as Callan. I've got 8. 5 of them are 3-year-olds.
Right, okay.
And then you got.
Go on then, right. You knock off 3 then.
I'll knock off my older horses then. One of them is yours as well. The first one I'm going to give you could be better than a handicapper, but if there's a race in mind, I think the Royal Hunt Cup could be a race for him, and he's called Extremity. He's trained by Hugo Palmer. He was a horse I really liked last season, and he was second to Master of the World at York. I remember that.
Bloody horse.
I got laughed at for putting it up. He won. Then he won a first handicap. He actually first caught the eye at Goodwood, Glorious Goodwood, when he won there. And he went for the Cambridgeshire, and he was disappointing that day. But I'm willing to forgive the run. And I know he's still in training because I saw him mentioned on Hugo's blog the other day. But I could see him early season being a similar type to Short Squeeze in a way. The way he's improved, he could easily start off somewhere in April or May, then go for the Hunt Cup, and then potentially improve from there. There was another handicapper I had in that ilk as well, but I'm not going to make. I'll give him a mention. I think American Hope has definitely got a big handicap in him over a mile, maybe 7 furlongs.
There's one thing about American Hope. I know for a fact that the owners have declined some very big offers about him.
They really like him. I know that.
Yeah, with regards to buying him for Hong Kong, I think. But they've turned down proper money for that horse.
They must really like him though. I remember he got beat by Monjol Ascot, and I backed
That was a
him
seriously
really
good performance that day.
Yeah.
That run. And you can really scrap his last one, can't you? So, yeah.
He didn't like Goodwood for me. Really didn't like the track. Got hampered at a crucial stage as well. The run that caught my eye for him was when he beat all the far side group in the Britannia. Unfortunately, because he was drawn on the far side, all the near side horses had the rail advantage and better ground. So he's one that I want to keep on side as well. I'll let you talk about Agent Murphy. I have got 1 or 2 races in mind for him. One other, and I'm hoping that he's been gelded. I don't know if he has or not. But Satellite was a bit of a head case last season for William Haggis. And he caught my eye in the London Gold Cup where he went 15 lengths clear. And the horse of his ability to be as close as he was to them at the finish, I thought was a hell of a run. Now, he's thrown in some really moody efforts, but I just think from 3 to 4, if he's been gelded...
He's been gelded.
Oh, great. Off 89, he could be winning some very nice handicaps then. So that's Satellite.
That is nutter, that horse, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe gelding him will make him. Some horses need to be gelded, and I think he was one that really needed it.
Wasn't Threakitori on him?
Yes,
that
yeah,
day?
he was. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Oh, God.
He was a fair way clear.
Yeah, he was.
Right, first handicap for me to mention Agent Murphy, as Adam's already revealed. So I'm not sure how good he could be. I do think he's group classed, and he'll have to be really, because he's off a mark of 98. He ran in one of the strongest 3-year-old handicaps last season and came third. He didn't get a clear run when beaten by Battersea, and he was hampered a bit by Battersea, about a furlong and a half out before really getting out into the clear. But he stayed on and really taking style that day. He's gone up £3 for that. That was off a mark of 95, but wasn't seen there for the rest of the season. I don't think it was any injuries. It was fairly late on in the year anyway, and the ground may have just gone against him. There were a few rumours that he was going to go jumping. I know the owner has had a few jump horses in the past, but as far as my knowledge stretches, which isn't that far, he is still on the flat and still with Brian Meehan. Meehan?
Meehan?
Yeah.
Good one.
Meehan? Yeah, Meehan. What the hell did that come from?
Oh, that's brilliant.
Brian Meehan. He's with Brian Meehan. He won his first 2 starts, one at Bath when wasn't expected to at all, 33-1. Then went on and followed that up in a good race at Sandown before finishing second to a horse that me and Adam very much liked, called Redkirk. And Redkirk was going to be one of my flagship horses this season. He's now out in Hong Kong, running in... Isn't he in the Hong Kong Derby, Callum?
He ran in it last week, didn't it?
Did he?
Yeah.
I know he's not close, and Group 1's out there.
He was sold for an astronomical price as well. Couldn't believe how much he was sold for. No wonder when we saw William Haggis at Ascot, he had the biggest smile on his face when he beat Agent Murphy.
Yeah.
He's now called Redkirk Warrior if you want to follow him out in Hong Kong.
I was going to say, if you wanted to look up Redkirk out in Hong Kong, he is called Redkirk Warrior now. But Agent Murphy finished 3/4 of a length behind Redkirk, and he was closing back up at the line. It may be more that Redkirk was just idling a little bit in front, but then he went on and was a good third in that Ascot handicap, over 1.5 miles. You guys, I think, weren't overly sure of his staying power that day.
Callum wasn't.
I was stupidly against it. I thought it stayed really well, to be fair. I was very surprised.
I think your comment to me before the race was he won't stay, and then instantly after the race you texted me saying he wants further.
Actually,
I wasn't convinced Brian Meehan was making the right decision, but clearly he did. So
Meehan come from?
That is a running joke throughout the year now.
It's your mate, isn't it, Brian Meehan?
Yeah.
Stealing Racing Post.
My Racing Post last year, so.
I had some targets for him.
What did you have in mind for him?
There's a handicap at the Dante meeting. I think it's the Orbic Stakes over 1.5 miles. Potentially goes on to the Duke of Edinburgh. That's the race name I was trying to think of at Royal Ascot. Down the line, he could be an Ebor candidate, potentially.
That's what I was thinking.
Won't stay.
I don't care. But yeah, Agent Murphy, he probably will have to be a group horse to win off the mark of 98. But I do think he is better than a handicapper in there. So
no, he's not got the tactical speed. No, it's all right. I thought, really sillily, I thought of the Melbourne Cup. I don't know why. It just struck me then.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're driven by someone good, then yeah, but no.
Ouch. But yeah, Agent Murphy, my first handicapper. Callum, we'll come back to you for your next 27.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've got four in the milers to middle distance category. First, actually, one of them is a 3-year-old who actually stuck away for the handicap. So he's one of my horses to follow. It's a horse called Spring Offensive for Richard Fahey. He's rated about 81. He won a red car maiden. Didn't really sound that promising, but the form actually works out extremely well. And he did well to finish second in a strong nursery at York on his final start behind a horse of Ed Walker's, which I think it's Invincible Gold or something like that. I can't remember the name of it now. But yeah, it was a really good run. Just a horse I think will improve as a 3-year-old. He's off a mark of 81. He looks thrown into me, so I'm quite keen on him. Top Tug, which Michael will be pleased about that one. Ran in a very strong Newmarket handicap, won by Farquhar. I don't know how that Farquhar won, but it was a extremely good race. Top Tug was having his first one since May. He'd actually beaten a horse called Cloudscape before then, so that's form that looks really strong. He looks a typical Michael Stout improver. If he's not got a handicap off his mark, I think around the 90s, I'd be absolutely stunned. I think he's so well handicapped. For me, he could be a group performer. I think he's come around to Royal Ascot. He could be one for maybe even something like the Hardwick, but definitely a handicap at least at Royal Ascot. Maybe something at York before. What's that?
Could you go the Arab Spring route potentially?
Yeah, I mean he reminds me a lot of Arab Spring in that regards.
The route I've just mentioned for Agent Murphy, because he did both them races, so. Yeah, that's an interesting route.
So he's one of the best handicap horses going for me at this stage. But there's a lot in that race to follow, and my stayer, who I'm going to mention in a bit, is also in from that race. Bar that, a couple more. One I'm not sure about because he's not been on the track. Well, he's not seen much racing. I mean, he's only run 3 times. John Gosden, horse called Prince of Stars. He won his last 2 starts, including a Sandown handicap last time after 3 months off. Was impressed with him at Goodwood, to be honest. He was still a big baby. At Chester, sorry, when he won his 2nd start. And then won quite nicely, or very comfortably at Sandown. He's got plenty to come. He's so well bred as well. He's by See the Stars out of Queen's Logic, so I mean he could not be better bred. So he's one I think is open to further improvement. And a horse I think is unfinished business with from last year, who he was in my tracker throughout the whole season, and I was waiting for him to run in a handicap on soft ground, and it never materialised. Amanda Perrett horse called Astronarius, is it Astronorus?
Astronorus.
Yeah.
Astronorus, that's the one.
Yeah.
Just like I said, very much unfinished business with the horse. I was convinced he had a big handicap in him. I was so impressed with his maiden win at Newmarket at the July meeting. After that, he ran on pretty much decent ground all the time, but ran some really good races, including when behind Battersea and Agent Murphy actually in that handicap at Ascot. Another horse I think is extremely well handicapped, but I think really needs soft ground. But yeah, it's very much one I'm keeping an eye on, hopefully for an early season race. I've got lots of horses on this list, but there are 4 that I very much am looking forward to.
You say you've got lots of horses on that list. I think that's going to be an understatement.
Yeah, there's about 600 on my tracker. No, there isn't. But, yeah.
Fine, good. Adam, you go next.
Right, I'm going to name all these in a bunch. This is my last lot for the bit. Well, before we do the OnTheOtherHoof horses, I've got 5 3-year-olds, and a lot of them aren't exactly that high rated at the minute. And it's something I enjoyed late last season, was trawling through these 2-year-old maidens, trying to find horses that could potentially get very lenient marks. And I'm going to start with the one that's got the lowest mark, which is 57. He's a horse called Atalan, who's trained by Hughie Morrison. His half-brother is Vaunt the Force, who went on and won the Melrose, and I see him being a very similar type to that. He'd been running over a mile 1. That's another handicapper I need to mention as well. It just reminded me.
Did you back him in the Melrose?
I did back OnTheOtherHoof in the Melrose, but somebody on the video nicked it before I could talk him up. Who do you think it was? Hi.
Didn't he run in the Cadran as well?
He was in the Royal Oak.
That's it. Royal Oak. Yeah.
What a beast that horse is! I love that horse.
we should put. Well, we should have put him. Should we put him on the other hoof stayer when he gets soft ground? That's what type the postron is. Anyway, back to Atalan. He was a very similar horse to OnTheOtherHoof. He ran in the same 2 maidens, but he actually ran in a 3rd maiden at Nottingham, where he was prominent, and then he just got outpaced over a mile. And the mile's never going to be his trip. Minimum, I think he wants is a 1.5 miles. With mile 6 will be perfect for him, maybe even 2 miles as well. I don't think he'll improve the Royal Ascot 3-year-old handicap there, but I could see him easily making up into a Melrose type potentially. If not, he'll be a horse for the future as well. But off a mark of 57, if he's not winning races, I may as well just give the game up. 1 off 67. Now.
You don't come to eat to regret those words, I think.
Yeah. You said that in this video last year about a horse, and the horse never won. So, a horse off. Yeah, I'll remember the horse and I'll send it you. The second horse is a horse from Gary Moore's yard, believe it or not.
What?
He's got a mark of 67, and he's called El Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
On debut at Windsor. Phoenix, whatever. On debut, he was ridden by Ryan Moore at Windsor, and he disappointed that day. And for Gary Moore to want Ryan to ride the horse means they must hold him in some regard. And
they expected a lot that day.
They expected a lot that day. Well, they didn't know very much. His last run at Kempton was where he really caught the eye and went into the notebook. He was staying on that day. I think he was 5th that day. And the mark of 67, I think, was plenty to come from that mark, and I wouldn't be surprised. He could be similar to Atalan, where he goes on a winning streak 4 or 5 in a row. The third one I will mention Acolyte very briefly. I think he wants better ground than what he saw last season. The run at York, I'm surprised if he has come down 2 pounds in the ratings, because he didn't really deserve to. I mean, he was 3rd to Elm Park on debut, and I thought that was a fairly good maiden. Yeah. He'll win races off that mark.
It's just the fact that it was his first handicap, and he's underperformed, so maybe the handicap has gone, maybe I've got that a little bit wrong and chucked him down 2 pounds. Anyway, if I have got that right, I think I have.
Yeah, if he has got that right, well, if he thinks that, wow, I see him winning quite a few races. One that's got a high handicap mark of 95, he's a horse called Master Apprentice. He's trained by Andrew Balding. He went into my notebook on the debut when he was 3rd. Oh, he likes the horse. He was 3rd in a Sandown Maiden behind time tests, and I see him being a middle distance type. One that could go for a handicap potentially at the Craven meeting, or maybe even one at the Guineas meeting, and I could see him potentially improving from there. He's 4th handicap. 2 more. I said 5, there's 6. I forgot Dissolution completely. A horse that I raved about last season as a 2-year-old. And I finally got a win out of him at Goodwood. I didn't back him because he was odds on, but he won. He was 5th at York behind White Lake, and he went on then and he was 2nd at Haydock in a really good maiden, which featured the likes of Lord Ben's. That Rocky Rider was a horse I did consider putting in the video, but he looks a bit obvious now after absolutely bolting up last week at Chelmsford. He looks one to keep on the right side of and be one for the future. But Dissolution, he was one I actually did have in mind for the 3-year-old handicap at Royal Ascot, and I think his mark's 90, and I see definite improvement from that mark from 2 to 3. And the last horse doesn't have a handicap mark yet, but when he gets one will be interesting. He's a horse called Winterval, who's trained by Luca Kamani. He was 6th in a Newbury maiden on soft ground, and then was 2nd at Nottingham on soft ground as well. I think he'd won a mile to 10 furlongs. That'd be distance, I think, at this stage. He's another one, like White Lake, has entered up in the sprint of a trophy in the Tattersall's races. Once he gets a handicap mark, I'll be keeping a close eye on him. So they're all my handicappers to follow. There's a lot of them, so I thought one of them could win a race.
I kept mine small and select, mostly because I couldn't remember them. But
I
Trackerless, mate. So you should have 300 in your track.
at the end of last season, I made a Word document and just threw them all in because I knew that I was going to be writing a flat preview, which I've still not finished yet, surprisingly.
I'm aiming to do that for the jumps, actually.
Yeah, I've done that as well. I've got my jumps list as well, so yeah.
Wait, you're thinking way ahead of what I was. I'm going to take off my last two. I'm going to start off with Lightning Spear. Both of them are actually Ollie Stevens horses that are owned by Qatar Racing, but Lightning Spear is one that Callum, I think you very much like as well.
Yeah.
Off a mark of 91, he went up £6 for winning at Nottingham for a mark of 85. That was over a mile. He could have won. He won by about. It wasn't that far that day, actually, was it, Callum? I can't remember the official distance.
About 1.5 lengths, wasn't it?
Yeah. It could have been a lot further, but he was coaxed home, really. Jim Crowley never really got serious with him on that occasion. He's a much better horse than 91 would suggest, and you'll probably see him to much better effect once he steps up to a mile 2, maybe even a mile and a half in a bit of time. But I just clicked on his future entries on Sporting Life, and that website's been screwing up a lot lately, so I don't know if this was actually true that he got a Lincoln entry, but he's not in the Lincoln anymore. That would have been a horrible race for him to run in. He did? Okay.
It was mentioned at the end of last season of Lincoln. I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, he's out of that now, so that's fine. As mentioned, off the mark of 91, over a mile 2, a mile and a half, he really come into his own. And the other one that I wanted to mention, also for Ollie Stevens and Qatar Racing, is one that a few people I imagine will have on their list. The horse called Heisman, who is an absolute brute of a horse, but on debut was very, very coltish at Kempton, very, very green as well. Travelled all over a horse called Bustopher of Godolphins. Bustopher hasn't really gone on and built on that potential and promise from that race, but he travelled well and didn't quicken over a mile, which he's since won over on 2 occasions, one of them being a maiden next time out at Kempton. So he's improved majorly for that. He came 3rd in a very good handicap at Kempton as well, off a mark of 84. He's now got a mark of 89 after went very well backed at Lingfield last time out. I think I backed him at 9-4. He went off something like 4-5 Lingfield that day. So switched on to turf. I imagine we'll see a bit more improvement of him, and I think he's going to make an absolute mockery of a mark of 89. He's a much, much better horse than that would suggest. I've got him down as sort of listed group class, but off the mark of 89, the first time out, if he's not winning that, then I'd be very, very disappointed. He looks to have no end to his abilities. And Andrea Saini will be in the saddle this year, which is also an added bonus. Callum, have you got any more handicappers to go with?
One more in the stayers category. I put this in my 10 actually. A horse called Mr. Rock, who firstly caught my eye at Haydock when he traded about 900 to 1 in running, and came and nabbed a horse called Ennobled on the line. I think he won by a nose in the end. Ennobled is he's a bit of a dog, to be honest, but take nothing away from this horse. Then he ran. Mr. Rock ran 5th behind Firefighting in a handicap at Air. I think it's pretty strong form, but the trip's just totally inadequate again. He stepped up to 12 furlongs and ran a belter in that really big handicap at Newmarket behind Farquhar. He's beaten 5 lengths into 6th. He's the type. I mean, his pedigree is just. He needs about 2.5 miles. He's the kind of horse, to be honest, I can actually see over jumps at some point because he stays so well. He's by Rock Amador, which is, not an obvious sire, but his half brother stayed 2.5 miles. He's related to 1 3/4 mile winner. The dam was a winner over hurdles. I mean, just stacks for the stamina. He's the horse I think you could start maybe. We were talking earlier, a race at Musselburgh on Good Friday potentially. But long term, he's a Cesaro-ish fancy. I think he's tailor-made for the race. So I really like him, Mr. Rock. I think he's actually in a time form 50 to follow as well, which I thought was being so original by putting Mr. Rock in. And then they went and stuck it up. But I did actually mention the horse to them, so I'm hoping I influenced it in some sort of respect.
Hoping.
Yeah.
Right, that is all the horses we have singly to follow this season for the flat campaign, which I'm sure will change after the first weekend. coming up at Doncaster. We'll probably add a few more into that. But we have three on the other hoof horses, we're calling them, that we all are very, very keen on for the upcoming season. The first one Callum's actually already mentioned is Muthmir, that I think we all agree can make up into a top class sprinter.
Yeah.
After winning the Portland last year in such impressive style. Limato is another sprinter who really could potentially be taking on Muthmir, couldn't he?
Yeah, at some point, but obviously Limato will go for the 3-year-old race, and he is the one to beat for me in that.
Yeah, he looked just a completely different machine. The only thing that might limit him is that he's a gelding.
Yeah,
I know that limited what races he could enter as a 2-year-old this season.
Less so. It's just the classics, isn't it?
Yeah, the classics. Yeah.
That was never going to be a bother on him anyway. So, but Limato could just be an absolute freak. He was very, very good last year. And Bragging is the last one that we've got to mention, who looks like a lovely filly to go forward with.
Oh yeah. Can I talk about her a bit? I've got some interesting plans for her. Well, we all know how good Smythe Stout is with fillies, and I'm comparing her a little to Integral, who also remains in training. Integral does, so it'll be interesting to see how he keeps these apart. We may even put them in the same races, but Sorry
to interrupt. I think Bragging will stay further than Integral. I think Bragging will be mile 2.
I do think that she can win races over Marlow. Races like what's it called? The one at Royal Ascot over a mile. I could see her go in there. The one that Integral won last year. I think it's the
Princess
of Wales,
Duchess of
Cambridge. That's the one. Yeah, Duchess of Cambridge. Potentially the Falmouth if the ground came up decent. The Nassau Stakes would be another race, and very long term, very way down the line, the Breeders' Cup filly and mares over a mile and a quarter. She's got stamina in her pedigree, and the way she was winning 7 furlong handicaps on the snap last year, she was just so impressive. She even won with Ted Durkin on in a canter. Her last run against the likes of Kiyoshi and really good opposition, she wasn't disgraced. She got outpaced and she stayed on. The stamina came to the fore late on, but Kiyoshi was giving a great ride that day, and she was put away for the winter months, and she's come back, and I really can't wait to see her. She's one of my top horses to follow this year.
She was a big raw horse last year as well, so the winter on her back would do a good deal of
those 2 handicap wins were so impressive. A Newmarket one in particular, I was so impressed by her. She instantly went in the track after that performance.
York
was similarly that really highlights herself as a group performer, winning that off 97.
I think last time out behind Kiyoshi, I think it wasn't class that beat her. It was just probably she got beat for a bit of toe against some very, very good fillies as well. So
she could even start off on Guinea's Day in the race, and Integral might start there. So it's an interesting jigsaw that he's got. He's got some very nice fillies. Well, Integral's now a mare, but she's a top quality mare.
Well, they're different. They're different owners as well. So maybe we might see them taking each other on.
Yeah.
Maybe unlikely, but we'll see. But the 3 on the other hoof horses that we flagged up and all agree on is Muthmir, Limato, and Bragging. One last thing I wanted to do before we go on to tweets and your guys' fancies, you can still get them in. Last chance at On The Other Hoof, tweet in your suggestions on horses that you're going to be following over the season, and we'll read them out at the end of the show. Is just any sort of up-and-coming jockeys that you wanted to follow. I know me and Callum have got one that we're very, very keen on to keep one. I know you fall under that bracket as well. Have you got any other than the obvious one that we're about to mention, Adam?
Tom McCann, I think he's really good. It's Callum mentioned it off air. He's not even ridden on turf yet. It's just
it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's just crazy.
There's others as well, like Joe Doyle, Louis Stewart. I mean, they're going to lose their claims very quickly. Cam Hardy. I mean, they are going to lose their claims, but I can see them. I mean, some of them on Saturday could really pick up some decent rides in them to big handicaps, because most jockeys will be out in Maidan. So claimers could have a really good day on Saturday. So yeah. Hope 1 or 2 of them do. Oh, Mike Ennis claiming 5. There we go. And you'll hear why.
Yeah, Lincoln winner.
Yeah, the Lincoln winner.
Well, it's the one that we're going to mention then, he might be in action at Doncaster on Saturday. I'm not sure. He might, even more likely, I think he might have a ride at Kempton. But I think we all agree on Monsieur Crouch, don't we?
We.
As Hector Crouch, he is £7 claimer, based at the moment with Gary Moore. I think he rides out for Ollie Stevens as well. I'm not 100% sure, but for me, he's impressed me with his style. You wouldn't pick out that he's a £7 claimer at all. He's strong in the saddle. He's got a very good judge of pace as well. I remember him winning. He rode winner on a horse called Marmalade at Bath last year from the front. He also did the same thing at Brighton on, I think Birdie Queen was the horse's name. Again, going from the front, setting what looked to me like a suicidal gallop, but the horse, he then got a breather in, filled the lungs, and then went on again. He's a very, very good judge of pace. He's very strong in the saddle. To me, he looks like a jockey that will go far. The one little query that I have, it might not be a bad thing in the long run, because he might be able to prolong his claim for a bit longer than you would say at a bigger yard. But he's based with Gary Moore. He's not going to get the big rides that he might do if he was at, say, Andrew Balding's yard, something like that.
He can ride El Phoenix for me again. Brilliant.
Yeah. Phoenix.
Phoenix, whatever. I don't care.
He did ride El Phoenix.
At least it's a good pronunciation.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, basically, this kid is good. Draw a line under that. But he's claiming 7. He'll be a name to watch out for over the next few years, I'm sure. Well, this kid is good. We'll say that. Yeah. Right, we'll move on to your tweets now. Jamie Hernandez is the first one, and looking forward to seeing Tiggy Wiggy. Won me loads as a 2-year-old last year. Me and you both, my friend. Tiggy Wiggy, I want to see his sprinting trips. Apparently, she's still going to go for the Guineas. I don't think any of us want to go for the Guineas.
Yeah,
doesn't she go for the Fred Darling to start off with? Let's hope she gets 7 there.
Yeah. But they're looking. Apparently, she's settling one in a hood at home. Yeah. So
I was going to say that.
Her to be in a hood if she does run.
Her key skill is her speed and her pace.
Yeah, it's stupid.
In the Guineas, what are they going to do? Are they going to go and set a suicidal gallop for another Hannon horse?
She's 15 lengths clear.
Is she going to win She's going to win everything.
The furlong pole, and Tiggy Wiggy is 15 lengths behind.
That's a good Ian Bartlett impression, that.
I've been working on it for a long time now, so. Graham Woods, how far do you think Elite Army will go?
Oh, Christ.
Depends if he's learnt to settle, because he's very headstrong last year.
I've got him in the same category as King's Fate. He needs to learn to settle before he'll be good.
Yes.
Yeah, but he's actually got form, like good form, unlike King's Fate. Like, he's proven himself to be like top class. Despite not settling. I mean, he's won at Royal Ascot. How did he win that, considering what he did? Unbelievable.
It's a handicap, mate.
It was a good one.
Good handicap. Oh, that handicap.
Remarkable performance. Absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, it was a very good performance.
He beat the bridesmaid that's Windshire. Oh, bless him. He deserves to win the race.
All these mentions of horses just reminds me of how much I lost money on bad rides last year. All the good ones.
All the ones you've mentioned are from the same jockey as well.
Windshire.
Sorry, I remember that. Oh, God. Oh, jeez.
I think I was with you, Adam, through that.
Yeah, you were, and Michael.
We were all at Goodwood.
Yeah, we were. Oh, good times. Oh.
Yeah. Jamie Brownlow, good luck with Late Night Request this year, Jamie. He tweets something about hopefully Late Night Request will put up another good season. She'll be out early running at Pontefract. # horse to follow. Yeah. Best of luck with Late Night Request.
But yeah.
Hopefully she can bag a few more for you guys.
On Channel 4 as well.
Yeah, on Channel 4. Hilarious. Well done, Jamie. Lenahan has sent in a few. I think your name's Joe Mallet, so we'll call you Joe. Consort and Convey for Sir Michael Stout look top prospects to follow. Where do you see them going this year, and what are your views on them? Convey as well. We'll start with him. Convey, very, very impressive at Kempton.
Guineas, I'd say. Consort goes for the Guineas as well, I think, but I can see Consort staying further. Two were very rare exceptions last year. They were Sir Michael Stout maidens that won on debut, and he didn't have many of them last year, so they must be pretty smart. I like both of them.
consort, the 5th horse in Consort's maiden was Mudhidge, ironically. So yeah, that's interesting.
Maiden Foreman's.
It was a pretty good maiden, I think. I was impressed by Consort, very impressed.
Yeah.
And also in Convey, visually was very, very taking. So yeah, they're nice. They're very nice horses. I expect. Well, yeah, I agree. I think Consort's more middle distance horse, and Convey's probably more of a Guineas horse if they are. But again, I mean, is Stout the kind of trainer you want for a Guineas? I mean, he's not really. I can't really remember recently horses he's had for the Guineas.
Oh, what was the one? I've got one in mind. Hang on, I'll come back to that. You keep going, and I'll come back to it. I think I remember
Okay,
one.
Joe Mallet again. He's got a few tweets that he sent in. Andre Farb could have a live Guineas horse in Make Believe, who has Guineas and pre-Jebel entries. Any views on him? Can't say I know a great deal about Make Believe.
No, I haven't seen his performances, to be fair, but he won his first 2 starts, so
Yeah.
Newcomers racing in a minor event. He put up pretty useful performances without looking outstanding, but look, he's trained by Andre Farber, who's one of the best trainers in the world.
Ever.
So
got one that Stout won the Guineas with, King's Best.
no, I know he won the Guineas with King's Best.
Yeah,
recently, like I'm talking the last, 10 years or so.
Well, 15 years that is.
Oh yeah, 15. I can't. He's not the kind of trainer I have as winning Guineas. He's more of a trainer that wins derbies. But that's because he's got horses that are usually bred for middle distances anyway, and bred to improve in time. So yeah, he's not an obvious type for me, but they're both nice prospects.
Yeah. Joe, back in again. What are your thoughts on the Newmarket and Epsom Classics? For the Derby, personally, I'm with John F. Kennedy. I really liked him last season. I think he's a horse that's going to improve and improve and improve. Ante-post, I put him in a double with Fadan. So I think both of them can go close. But I think we're all on Fadan for the Guineas as well.
Yeah.
Actually, while we're here, Glen Eagles. I think Callum agrees with me that Glen Eagles isn't really a Guineas winner, but we have him down as anyway.
Truly shocking price. That's just put it out there. Shocking.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's just because the Racing Post, mate, inside information and stuff.
Johnny Ward, was it?
Even I'm looking now. Odds checker. The 4-1's gone. He's 7-2, and that's going like he's been cutting to 3s today.
Do you remember what price Kingman was before he won the Greenham? Was he?
He's about 9-10-1.
Yeah, and then he won. Yeah.
So I backed him.
Oh yeah.
Well, Fadan's about 8-1, isn't he? So
yeah, he's coming for money. Yeah.
It'll be similar one to Kingman. Yeah, but I don't understand the Glen Eagles. I like the horse Glen Eagles, but the concern is he's the type that only just does enough. He
does idle.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
He hangs as well. I mean, twice now he's hung. When he won the national stakes, he hung right. I noticed, and then obviously when he won at Longchamp, it cost him the race. So he's not convinced me as a horse that should be that price for the Guineas. It's madness.
It's about maybe a month ago, maybe a little bit less. Me and Callum were just sitting down talking about O'Brien's Guineas horses, and we came up with Glen Eagles probably as the most suitable candidate, but that's all he is for me, is a suitable horse for the Guineas. But then if you're putting him up against the types of John F. Kennedy, Old Man River, they're not really out and out Guineas horses. They're going to be better over staying trips. I just don't think Glen Eagles really got that star quality about him that would suggest he could win a Guineas. And another thing about the Ballydoyle horses, if they ever do a scintillating piece of work, then usually that gets published after the gamble. I haven't really seen anything saying that Glen Eagles has been absolutely raving at home.
No, I've not either.
Well, it surely must be if they're putting that much.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. The Racing Post, mate, I'm telling you. Then Joe has rounded off with Consort Convey, Old Man River, Make Believe, and High Celebrity are my early season 3-year-olds to follow. Good luck with that, Joe. Ante-post betting, any handicap horses to follow this season? Yes, we mentioned it. Richard Cook, Trista, he's back with an absolute bang in 2015. Hopefully he can transform his all-weather form to the turf. He's currently a short price favourite for the Easter Classic. On the World Championship Day.
Don't know about him coming back onto turf. That's my worry.
No, we'll see. We'll see about that. He's very, very talented. Very talented. Just actually one horse for All Weather Championships Day, Callum, that I think we both would like coming back onto the turf is Pretend.
Yeah. Yeah. Potentially. I don't know. I mean, has he got any? Has he ever run on turf? He must have run on turf.
I don't know. Actually, embarrassingly.
I don't think he has. If I'm thinking about it, I can't remember him running on turf.
Ran at Chelmsford. Didn't he run at Newmarket on debut or something like that?
Oh, he's run once on turf at Maidan, and he pulled Mikel Barcelona's arms out. I thought it was on the tackle tip, but it's actually on the turf. But apart from that, he's unraced on turf. But like, he's back for it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see him on turf.
Honestly,
he looks a horse.
How good was that performance last time? I genuinely can't think of a horse I've seen that's been more impressive on the all-weather ever.
No.
Genuinely, it's not being too ridiculous either. It was a remarkable performance.
His turn of foot was incredible, but we won't get too sidetracked by that. Darren Walker's got in touch. Sir Isaac Newton will turn out to be the star middle distance horse from Aidan O'Brien. I hope you're wrong with that. I'm John F. Kennedy. But good luck with that. And he's gone Jellicle Ball and Consort, my dark horses. They're just maiden winners. Callum, you're a fan of Jellicle Ball, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right. Good luck with those, Darren. Jamie Brownlow back in again. Also keep a lookout for Tatley Sue in big sprints. Also, G-Force should be winning a few in his last season. I was very close to putting G-Force up actually as a horse to follow. I sort of went against it because I don't think he's got the speed for Group 1 5 furlong races. I was saying that July Cup and Sprint Cup again. I think he could be a serious contender in both. Lee Armstrong's got in touch. Sir Percy Aces and Top Tug. You're a big fan of Aces. I remember him harping on about that last season. And again, Callum likes Top Tug. The horse.
Yep.
You laughed first, Adam.
No.
Tatley Sue was a horse I liked last year. Big brute of a thing. He doesn't even look like a sprinter. But yeah, he just kept knocking on the door in big handicaps last year. So he just needs to step it up a notch. But if he does, then he's very well handicapped.
Yeah. One for Callum. Mentioned to Callum previously. Surely TWS.
The wow signal.
The wow signal. Sorry. Apologies, Luke Seymour. Surely the wow signal is hugely overpriced in the Guineas if you ignore his last run. Just may like it softer. Yeah.
But he went well on good ground at Royal Ascot. I don't think he wants soft ground. I was worried about him at Deauville on really soft ground, but he handled it fine.
At Longchamp, I think it was over the top. He needed.
He came back wrong. He came back wrong as well. I know that.
I think it was.
Phil when he next at William Hill. Ask him then.
Yeah, well, Sean has said he's worked. Sean has said that he is working well at home at the moment, and he said last season, his last run at Longchamp, he just needed a break, and that was him put away for the season. Kai Berry, a lot of people actually going for Consort here. I thought Consort won probably the best maiden at HQ last year. Any thoughts on where he's likely to be targeted?
Middle distance.
Yeah, Dante's an obvious point, isn't it?
Good point, yeah. But then, if they're going to go for the Guineas with him, where would they go after that? Don't know. Maybe Derby? Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be the obvious step, wouldn't it? But yeah, a lot of people going for Consort here for the season. Bradley, just wondering thoughts on Ivorwood, as I thought he looked a machine and not sure defeat last time out was a disgrace.
I can't work him out, to be honest.
No, I can't either.
He's by Zebedee. He's shaped as a sprinter. It was by Zebedee, isn't he? But there's more stamina on the downside, so he could stay.
With Zebedee, we're not going to know if they make up into 3-year-olds until this season. He looks like he'll make up into a 3-year-old. However, saying that, last season there are a few people passing the word around that he looks like a 3-year-old already, and he may just be physically stronger than the other 2-year-olds at that point. Whether he's if he's grown again as a 3-year-old, then he'll be absolutely huge this year. But he probably would have to come on, and whether he's got that much improvement left to be found, that will be the one problem.
I don't think he does, but I can see him running in the Craven and winning it, and then probably take him on in the Guineas. But Hannon said he was one of their most exciting Guineas prospects for a long time in a recent interview.
Well.
And yeah, I would take that for a pinch of salt. But his middle park conqueror, Charming Thought, has obviously suffered an injury. He aimed at a Leicester conditions race in September. So look forward to seeing him there.
On Ivorwood as well, it was Richard Hannon who said he was like a 3-year-old, and that was what put me off him going forward. I remember at the end of last season, we were asked on the show, did we think he'd train on? And I said no, because on the basis that he's already like a 3-year-old then, he's going to be way forward compared to the likes of other 2-year-olds like Fadan, like Flaming Spear, potentially other 2-year-olds that will be kept for the 3-year-old campaign and maybe even further. That's my concern. And Eshtikar as well. I saw him at Doncaster and I really didn't like him there. Apparently he's done a bit of growing, which he needed to do, but still he didn't knock my eyes. Didn't knock me out. So
I think Eshtikar is a horse that's a lot like Gleneagles in the sense that he only does enough.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
He's not like Tormore, who's related to.
Yeah,
he's a half-brother of Tormore, isn't
he?
Yeah, but yeah, Eshtikar just does enough for me.
To be fair to Tormore, he actually ran really well on Champions Day, which surprised me.
Yeah. I'm sure Tormore actually will enter a few horses to follow lists this season.
Where would you go with him? That's my question.
Mine. He could. There's something like the Bet 365 Mile or whatever it's called, early season race.
Yeah.
Sundown, whatever.
I had the view on him that if he settles properly, 10 furlongs would be enough, and you'd maybe to go down with him. If he
the Hannons can't train over that trip, can they? I mean, it's only a mile, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I told you Night of Thunder wouldn't stay in the Eclipse.
Shut up.
I think he stayed. It was just such a bizarre race.
Yeah, it was a bizarre race.
He's not one. He's not necessarily one I'm really looking forward to this year. Actually, Night of Thunder. I surprisingly think he's not got that much more to give.
To be fair, he was given some shockers last season as well. Ryan Moore was also guilty of this at Longchamp.
Oh, Ryan Moore.
One tap, and then he gives him a second tap on the line, thinking they were going to the second winning post. And then at Ascot, we will not talk about Ascot. We promised we would never talk about that again. So that's all I'm going to say on that.
With his Longchamp run behind Charm Spirit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
First time you told me about Ryan Moore mistaking the winning post, I thought you were being an idiot. I watched it back. And on the slow-mo, as they're going past the line, you can see Ryan Moore's just starting to give him another smack. And he did mistake the winning post. I think he admitted it afterwards as well and apologised. So fair play to him. But moving on, Mick McHugh, as we know, Des Walker. Excellent work, lads. Very interesting and extremely useful. Now time to update my tracker with all your fancies. Good luck for the season. Good luck to you if you're using our horses. Jamie Brownlow, one last tweet I think from him. Watched him going up the gallops on Saturday. Lexington Abbey, he looked very well. Also on the gallops, Swift Approval was well also. So the Midland Park crew are out there. Callum Jones, this is going to be one directed towards Callum Medell from Callum Jones. Forgotten Rules of Banker for the Gold Cup, lads. I don't think he'll jump well enough.
I see what you did there. He doesn't want extreme grounds. If it came up good to firm, I'd be slightly concerned, but he should be too good for them, shouldn't he? There's no real standout in the same division, no more leading light, so, poor leading light.
Mr. Rock might not be ready for it, so...
he should be too good for them. Depending on what turns up, he should be too good for them.
I would love it. No, I wouldn't, because I hate soft ground went at Royal Ascot, but if it was, I'd love to see Tadham Watchron in there.
That he would bolt up in that. I'm sorry.
I'm just looking at the market now. I mean, there's such a lack of options, isn't there? He's the only obvious one. Brown Panther got beaten the race last year.
Didn't stay.
Didn't settle. Protectionist, by the sounds of it, is going elsewhere to the Prince of Wales. Am I right in that? From what I've heard. Windsor Park. I mean, that's a desperately short price. Pale Mimosa, Peak Sue.
Pale Mimosa's been retired. So I don't know why she's still in the best.
Actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get reporting that one to...
Hartnell's 20-1, and that's in Australia.
Yeah, he's in Australia, yep.
It's a horrendous market. I tell you what, 4-1, lads. Oh, well, that's a great price.
Should we just put that up as a bet of the season? Like,
Yeah, no, I was. The
On the other hoof bet of the season is Forgotten Rules in the Ascot Gold Cup. There we go. Where are we
Sorry,
going to finish first?
I'm just looking at odds checker now. I don't know if it's the app or website screwing up, but some shrewdies on Betfair are trying to lay estimate at 9-1 for the race.
Well, she's retired, and if anybody's silly
But
enough,
they're also trying to lay leading light at around 11-1.
he was retired.
Yeah.
Going to be a brilliant national hunt sire, so.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Not as good as Imperial Monarch. One last tweet in from Bradley. No, not one last tweet. We've got two more. From Bradley, very informative show tonight, lads. Have to say, I've loved Adam's witty contributions.
Oh, thank you.
He clearly hasn't been watching this show for too long.
He has.
And then he's come back in again. Thanks for discussing my questions, lad. I share very similar views myself. Unlucky, because we're very usually wrong. In fairness, that is about all we've got time for. Just my top horse for the season to follow: Eagle Top. Adam.
I'm going to go with bragging. One that I forgot to mention was Cougar Mountain. I'm looking forward to seeing him going up to 7 furlongs in a mile. The Tasty, I forgot about him completely. And as I was going through the Aidan O'Brien lot before, I went, oh, hang on a minute, Cougar Mountain. Put him in his trackers. I really, really liked him. He was thrown in the deep end after his maiden, but he's a really nice horse. My number one, though, will be bragging. She will win Group 1s.
Yeah. Callum, top horse to follow this season?
Listen, they think the world of Cougar Mountain. You're going for Eagle Top. I'm going for Free Eagle.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he wins everything.
Right.
Honestly, I'm really keen on him this year. If he keeps out.
It's going to be slightly harder to do because there aren't as many prices out for the flat season races as the jump season races. But let's try and put together an On the Other Hoof treble.
Oh,
yeah, we need prices out now, don't we? Really, for that respect.
Actually, let me just check.
I think we all agree on Fadan, don't we?
Yeah.
So should we put Fadan in?
Mm-hmm.
I want John F. Kennedy in the Derby at 6.
I wouldn't disagree with that. So.
Yes. Got him. He's in.
I've got rules for the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
And then one more.
That's 3. We've already got 3.
I've got one.
What, Adam?
German 2000 guineas, Livery
Right,
Gold.
we've got 3 then.
German 2000 guineas, Livery Gold is a very interesting horse. He won his maiden by 17 lengths. He was really impressive. And
Yeah, he got beat last time, didn't he?
Yeah, he got beat last time out, but I think the excuses emerge from that. He's very interesting in Germany.
Well, there's no market for that. Right, okay.
There
The only
is.
other treble.
There is race bets, but they can't do multiples on race bets. So.
Right, okay. The only other who's treble for the year starts with Fadan in the Guineas, about 8-1, I think. John F. Kennedy in the Derby at 6-1, and ends
Forgotten Rules.
at Royal Ascot Forgotten Rules in the Ascot Gold Cup.
I tell you, that's really, really good. I've just seen this King George betting.
There is there actually.
Yeah, Eagle Top 16-1.
Oh,
What
Sorry.
price is Free Eagle?
It's not even quoted. There's only 4 quotes: Flintshire and Kingston Hill at 8s, and Alcazim and Eagle Top at 16s.
Oh, is that on race bets?
Yeah.
Eagle Top at 16s is a stonking price, and I don't use the word stonking for nothing. Right. So treble. Just go one more last time. The 2,000 guineas is Fadan, John F. Kennedy in the Derby, and the Ascot Gold Cup. Forgotten Rules. Right. It's been a long one tonight, lads.
Yep. Are we going to put up our own ante-post bet for the season? I've got a good one.
Oh yeah, we haven't done that yet. Mine will be John F. Kennedy in the Derby. So.
Mine's going to run on
mine.
Saturday in the Lincoln, just because I want to get it over and done with. Cantlow does not run in the Grand National. He goes to the Irish Grand National. Anyway, Empire Storm each way in the Lincoln. There we go. Put him in an each way double with Alvarado for the Grand National. I think that's a really good each way double.
Fair enough.
Big price.
Callum.
I was looking. I've just seen there's odds for the Commonwealth Cup, so I'm going to go for Limato in the Commonwealth Cup at 6-1.
The 6s, is he?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We'll say when the market.
Come on.
And one last thing, if a market comes up for the French 2,000 guineas, I wouldn't put you off territories. Really like.
God, you're just mentioning every race today.
Yes, I am. I want a winner. That's why.
Yes, I am.
It's been a long one tonight, guys. It's been even longer for me, myself and Callum, who before this show we did a Maidan World Cup night preview with Andrew Hawkins. You can find that on our Twitter page on here that you're watching it on now. I've forgotten how to talk there. You can also subscribe to us by clicking a box underneath this video that says subscribe. There you then. Oh God, I'm having an absolute shocker here.
Well, at least you know where
That
the button
way-
is
Another
now.
cracking intro from Mr. Elder.
Outro.
Sorry.
I suck at these. That way you'll be told about every video that we do, and when we do it, you'll also be told about upcoming videos on our Twitter page at OnTheOtherHoof. You'll be told about every single thing that is happening with us, and we'll also put up selections, etc. on Saturdays. But thank you for watching our flat season special. We'll be back on Friday to preview the return of the flat. Thanks. Well, Callum will be thankful for that. With the Lincoln meeting at Doncaster. Until then, we will see you on the Other Hoof.